So excited to be with you all today, coming from Austin, Texas, South by Southwest, joined by three of my favorite media people.
Wow.
I'm Emily Reynolds-Berg. I'm the founder of Our Public Relations, and I also write for Forbes and Entrepreneur, so kind of see both sides of the media lens.
My name is Wesley Faulkner. I have 25 years in tech experience, with the last 15 being in community management. I'm a senior community manager for AWS, focusing on the North American division, so United States and Canada mostly. But I've done everything from hardware to software and everything in between.
Glad to be here with you guys. I'm Patricia Bardin. I've had over 15 years experience in a breadth of industries for full funnel marketing roles and digital marketing, primarily focused lately in PR as well. So we're gonna have a good conversation.
Yeah.
So today we're talking about making brands stand out amongst the media noise. So Patricia, I'd like you to speak to that. Tell us a little bit about how you make brands stand out.
Well, there is a lot of media noise, and especially now there's less and less journalists to help cut through it for you and get you the mentions that you want. So a key strategy for sure is to make sure that what you pitch is seemingly less like paid media, for example. A lot of times journalists see what you're doing. If it's too obvious that it's for the brand, they'll send you to the paid department right away. So I just wanted to get straight to that it's a key tip to figure out what you wouldn't put in an ad is much more likely to get media mention, for sure.
Wesley, can you speak to how your podcast relates?
I think a brand stands out on a podcast when you understand the halo effect. There are people in podcasts where it doesn't matter what the brand of the podcast is under, if it's Crooked Media, or if it's ABC, if it's CNN, or whatever. The person and the personality is the thing that people tune into because that's who they relate to. And those people really stand for health, fitness, news, or great storytelling. And when you understand the core of the audience that these people bring in, then you kind of understand the halo effect that you're trying to inherit, because it is a tacit validation that you belong in that space. So if you really understand who is the audience you're targeting and who they choose to surround themselves with, once you understand that, then you can understand how do you ingratiate yourself with those people, so that then you can be one of them. And if you see them as part of their brand, part of their ethos of how you should live your life, then you're on the right track, and that's helped with that halo effect with your brand as well.
Emily, can you tell us a little bit about how your brand stands out as far as earned media goes?
Yeah. So speaking with what these guys have been saying, earned media, unlike paid opportunities, is really earning your story being told by someone else. So just like an organic friendship or any sort of relationship that we have, like when somebody wants to get to know you more, they want to get to know you more because you have something interesting that you're saying and you're offering. And so we try to do that with all of our clients, like really help them get to know what's going to have legs to their story, and then share that with someone else that is going to be interested in that. So not necessarily just a media contact, but we work with community partners. We work with people that just have another story that's similar. So just like creating an organic relationship. And earned media, I think, is under that umbrella, but technically it's more of the getting a journalist to get excited about that story. So then you don't have to, what Patricia was saying is like, you don't have to worry about the like paid endorsement for your client. You can be like, oh my gosh, they're really excited to write about you and hear more about you, or
I think
be on your podcast.
A key takeaway, if I was watching this and not on the panel, and I wasn't in the roles I've been in, is that For example, most recently, I just finished about 2 years with Lexmark, which is a printer company. And I always said, wow, printers are not sexy and no one wants to write about it. So let's just be honest. So you have to go indirectly, they call it tangential. And you have to think about, and a lot of business owners don't realize this as well, or people in roles like ours, they're always talking about their printers, for example. And when you get that good coverage, it's not about the printer. You can be a printer company, for example, and go out and create your own research study about nothing to do with printers and find a way to tie it in about something maybe people might print at some point, but a stat that you focused on, and then that gets you that link that you want and make it relevant. And it goes much deeper, but high level, it's really to get the coverage and to cut through the clutter. It's not thinking about yourself, and that goes for life too. Often, if we want to give some life advice,
100% correct. Because you don't sell the hammer, you sell the building, right? It's an enablement to the thing that people can vision and have more tangible. Because when you have a printer, you have a printer. It looks like a box on a shelf like everyone else. But when you see the art you can create, you see if you see art installations where people use intricate designs in order to get those, and they use a special cutting mechanism or certain vibrancy for a certain ink and stuff like that, that's the thing that you sell.
What
right?
it enables you to do, or thinking like that and having meetings, right, brainstorming sessions like that is the way that I think you really get to a point where it's something that someone wants to cover. Otherwise, again, straight to the paid department.
Exactly.
I do want to open up this question to anybody on the panel. Marketing and PR is not a one-size-fits-all. And so how do you differentiate if you have different brands? If you have a clothing company, a fashion line versus a nonprofit, how do you differentiate, or how do you know how to effectively serve those clients?
I could take it. I do have a strong background in fashion retail and omni-channel retail, and some of those brands had different products versus services, let's say, but it really comes down to the reverse engineering. Where do you want to land in terms of coverage, which is probably what you're about to say, like let's say it's a podcast, and thinking who's listening to that and what do they want to know about, or who's reading a certain piece, or I just saw I think it's Cartier has a paid print ad, for example, on the back of Harvard Business Review. But then they could end up featured in a piece inside of unpaid for earned media. You see where I'm going with this? Mm-hmm. Not that they paid for that, but they're an advertiser in a completely unexpected spot. But they bought the back cover, and then they could end up featured inside with a quote for their CMO or something like that. You see how it all comes together that way? And that's where knowing the industry and industries helps you to become a true marketing professional, just because of having the key takeaways from a lot of life experiences. Yeah. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that's a really good point when you're doing the differentiation, but sometimes I'm just going to take it a slightly different about internal differentiation, because there's a lot of brands that have you have a premium, you have a mid-tier, and you have like a budget brand. Yeah. And then they say you don't build it up, meaning like you don't figure out what you're adding to get to the top, but you figure out what compromises that people have to make to go down. And so as long as you understand the trade-offs between the tiers, then you can really understand how are you differentiating not only from within your own brand, but also the competitors are in the space. And so it's really important to have that solidified. This is my core product, and this is my core theme throughout my brand, or whatever is your differentiator. And so no matter what, because if you're always chasing competition, you're always going to be changing, and you don't know which compromises you are in turn making in order to do that. But you should always be clear about your internal compromises.
I have I love what you both said. My take is I grew up, my first job was in a restaurant. I was a dishwasher, and then moved up the ladder to a hostess, and and just kept going. And so when I started doing journalism and writing, I started writing for a food. I started as a food writer because I knew that industry really well, and I loved that industry. I still do. And so I feel like in order to navigate various industries, it really helps to have experience in one that you're really passionate about and you're connected to, and you can kind of talk the talk.
Absolutely.
And then you can see those similarities in other industries. And secondarily, just knowing your clients, if you're working with clients, their goals. So like everybody's going to have a different goal. And if you can kind of map that out for them, and I think Patricia, you spoke to that, just like mapping it out and like really being able to see that most of us have really similar goals. Like we want
Maybe
people to
print it
know
out?
about what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Print it out.
absolutely. You know, I print everything, and not because I worked at a printer company. That happened long ago. But you know, I mean, yeah, I could digress on that. That was a good one. That was a good one.
I'd like to open it up to any questions.
Yes, you in the front.
What are your, or how would your individual strengths and superpowers help you be successful in what you do?
What kind of strengths? you speak
I
to?
love people. Like I took my kids to Disney World and I was so excited because there was like a lot of people and it was just like a place to get to know everybody that you could, like in line or whatever. And my husband's like, I can't believe you're like really enjoying all of this. Like I feel like I want to just like cringe and go hide after like an hour here. And I think that superpower is like being intuitive. So like getting to know the layers of people is, I would say, my superpower, which makes me successful in public relations and journalism when I'm wearing that hat.
Absolutely.
Wesley, you've had years of success. Tell us a little bit about your superpower.
It's gonna community and people. I mean, it's gonna sound the same, but I'll go one level deeper. There's a famous quote attributed to Henry Ford saying, "If I asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse instead of a car." Mm-hmm. And the relationship allows people to have that kind of connection, so that you can not just hear what they're saying, but understand the feeling behind it. And my superpower is that I like to learn a lot about, or a little bit about a lot of different things. So I have a lot of knowledge about how the world works and how it functions as a system. And so when I'm able to listen to what people want, I can actually hear what they need, because they may not be able to articulate it because they're dealing with the information in their head. And I like to scaffold that onto the knowledge I have and be able to expand it and just say, let's think about this area because I think this checks the boxes that you need. And so that's where I think I thrive.
Patricia, what's made you so successful?
That's a good quote. What has made me so successful? Well, I tell you,
Your superpower.
no, I mean, I do love people too. That was nice too. I don't want to steal it.
I don't think we would do this if we didn't love people.
All three
No,
of us,
absolutely.
we were like connecting before this. that we
Absolutely,
love
and coincidentally,
the same things.
this is my first time at South by, and I keep saying, "Wow, this is like before you go to Disney World, you have to plan all of your
Get your express pass.
Yes, and then maybe pay a
Genie
little
Plus.
more. Yeah, pay a little more for that. But like, you want to go to that park, but that park's down the road, and like it's so. But then you meet people in between, and someone said, "Yeah, so either way, whatever happens, it's still good." And I was like, "This is Disney, but for tech people." But anyway, and that plays into what I was going to say is I see things differently than most people. And, you know, I used to think I might be strange or something for that. But in tech, you can leverage that in creative. So, I just tend to look at things differently than the most. And probably, you know, here I seem to fit in a bit more. So that's always nice. But I think in PR and marketing in general, you have to sometimes come at it from high level or get in the weeds. And, you know, a lot of times that is why I print things. I print websites all the time for clients or different companies I've worked within, different pages, and the key findings from that and source code just from looking at it on paper is always the best. So that is, I'd say it's a key to my success, which can be subjective, but we're all hard on ourselves, I'm sure. So.
Yeah. Are there any other questions from the audience?
Yes.
So if you're in tech these days, AI is a story everyone's
AI.
talking about, right? But it's super oversaturated. So do you have any like creative processes or sort of tools that you use to help you figure out how to break through oversaturated topics?
I do. So I think if you were to ask the same question to everybody in this room, we'd all have a different answer. And so having a way to, like, even if the topic is oversaturated, to authentically answer a question that's really coming from you, from your heart, your soul, your experiences, it's going to be way different. And I think, like, a lot of times when people think something's oversaturated, they tend not to want to put their voice in because they're like, oh, you already know this. Or like even the topic of PR or connecting, we were like, oh, maybe you already know this. It's like, no, we don't already know this. Like, we're all bringing different things, even though the topic is different. And so I think you'd be really surprised if you connect with somebody that, if you're looking to get media exposure, the best form I feel is to like read a lot of outlets that you're interested in and then learn specifically what that journalist might like. One of my favorite journalists is back there that we've worked with for a long time.
Shout out.
And I'm constantly bugging him still after all these years, and know what, like, you know, changing jobs and what they're doing, and like, and not like, oh, I want to get something from you, but like, I want to talk to you about a shared topic in a world that, you know, we're all talking about a lot of AI or whatever it is. And that person is probably going to want to talk to you about it too. And then you guys can come up with some way to create that relationship and ideally a storyline for your business or for yourself. So yeah.
I think too, tactically, to literally use AI like ChatGPT though, to find out what isn't being mentioned yet, is to ask for, I think, you got to study prompts. That's what I've been trying to do, to use it as more like a teammate, so to speak. But you to say, you know, here's 6 publications. What have they published the most in the last month? And then go deeper into that. And I'm finding that's the way that I'm not so agitated with AI, and I kind of like it. So
for me, I would say that you know, for media, there's this if it bleeds, it leads theme.
Ooh.
And so you hear a lot of doomers with AI. It's going to take all of our jobs, or it's going to kill us. But which is,
excuse me, I haven't read that
we've
article.
seen Terminator. I mean, it's out there. And the other part is the actual practical, what does this mean for me today? How will this change my life today? And if anyone here is on Facebook, LinkedIn, you've seen those AI generated profile pictures. And that is someone we're saying, oh, that looks cool. Click, I'll do that. And then another article would be like, this is why you're seeing all these AI generated pictures. And then that gets you an in to like, this is a practical thing that people could use and they can see some tangible benefits to their lives. And
then pitch upon that.
Yeah.
That's what you're kind of saying.
And it's just like, people, you can talk about the doom thing, or you can talk about, hey, this is make me have cat ears on Instagram. I don't know. So find the thing that helps people make sense of the world and actually helps them on their day-to-day. That's your angle. Because does this matter to me, or should I be scared? That's, people will forget about that, saying, I'm just not going to listen to it. It doesn't make sense. But make it practical, make it relatable, and make it accessible. And then that's the formula to kind of make it like tangible and worth someone to write about.
So my last question is, do you believe that there is no such thing as bad PR?
My 13-year-old daughter, is this working? I think. Okay. She hates, I say all the time, I say, well, they made you look, or you're talking about it. And she goes, ugh, because I do it a lot. But the point is, in reference to specific to PR, I am a big fan of you. You don't do the no comment. Like, you always get involved in the right way. And so there is bad PR, but that's what crisis PR is for. And then we're masters of spin. And so I'll admit it. So you can even make spin into a positive if you wanted us to. No.
I was going to say, where's Devin? Didn't he speak about that? Devin was talking about his reputation management firm.
I missed that, yeah. So, I mean, bad is subjective, or what do we say? Alternative facts, alternative word of bad. I'm kidding a little bit, but yes.
Can I hop in there?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would say it depends on brand durability, right? That's why I like community space. If someone's saying you suck and then someone else is saying no, they don't, and they'll have that fight on your behalf, that's great. If you're a brand new startup and then you hear that there's a huge security breach and you're like, oops, I'm sorry, and there's no one else to defend you and no one's bought in, you're dead. So if it depends 100% on if you've been there long enough to build this reputation, build this network, have this community around you where people have faith that you'll try to do the right thing, and then you surprise them by doing an even better thing, then actually, yes, that press, even if it starts off bad, can turn into something wonderful. But if you have a reputation for screwing people over, and then your response is, we screw people over, then you have your brand durability.
No comment.
That's your brand durability, right? Yeah. People like, you're the low cost leader, and that's the only reason why people choose it. Yeah.
Sure.
And if you try to expand outside of that, if you're like, hey, now we own an airline, our doors stay mostly on when we fly, then no, it's not going to work.
What do you do with a PR nightmare? Or what somebody might perceive as a PR nightmare?
I try to find the good in them and what they're doing, and if there isn't, then I don't work with them, is my short answer. But yeah, because I think what we all do in this space is, sharing what, we're passionate about, and what, and then rippling that into other spaces. Like there's a responsibility in making sure that, if to your point, if there really is like a stopping point and they're not doing something that's beneficial to the whole, then I truly do believe that there is such a thing as bad PR, and it should be like, we should all be aware of it and make our own informed decisions as a consumer or as, some sort of partner. And, from what we do, we do crisis work at RPR, but it's only like, my rule of thumb is like, if I find out you're lying, like there's no money back. Yeah. And we're like, we're not going to continue with the conversation to help you cover something up that is not authentic. And I so far have not met anybody, like once I say that, then it either like they don't call back or like we have a really successful relationship. And I loved what Devin, I don't know who heard it earlier, but like the art of reputation management, I think helps when there is a bad PR situation that needs to be rectified, whatever that is, or and then we've now have cancel culture, which helps cancel things out, or at least people become aware of things that aren't beneficial.
No, that's what I was going to say. We can't forget to mention, especially here at South by, that the digital reputation and long-lasting effects of bad PR is something to think about. So, and there's strategies for that as well. But you don't necessarily want to always cover it. You can. I don't want to say play off of it, but or use the word spin. I don't know what word I want to use right now, but. You have to remember that could stay, from an industry I was just in, some negative PR stays for, 15 years even.
Tide Pods?
I cannot comment who the client was. You're so funny. I love it. But it's very, very important to remember that, and then make sure that when someone searches something, what's coming up for that bad PR, you have strategically worked in something, whether it's owned or earned media or something, and shared that would come up at least like threefold above that is important. I love to make sure that someone gets key takeaways from all the stuff I'm saying when I'm talking. So never forget that.
Special thanks to all of our guests on the panel today, and thank you for sharing your expertise.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.